The horrors are never ending, but nevertheless, welcome to my 2025 favorite. What a year it has been. I don't really know what happened. I still believe that it is January of this year, if not still last year. I was doing a little year in review and was like, it's December? This all to say, welcome to a new aspect ratio, my friends. If you already know me, hello. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Sophie. I have a little monthly favorites obsession, and now I'm going to do a little yearly favorites obsession. So for those of you who do not know, I will break it down into the yearly report this time, only report is spelled incorrectly. What a year in review. Starting off with wears is going to be a little bit difficult because this was truly a year of wearing things. Let's start off with lip combo. I feel like this was a year in which I really perfected the art of the lip combo. In years prior, what I would do is I would put on one of those matte liquid lipsticks from 2016 and just put it on my Cupid's bow and like directly underneath my lip line, my under lip line, and then also in the corners of my mouth, which was great and also did hold up in terms of staying on my mouth, but because they were so old, eventually it did start to like actually make my lips dry out in a way that was gross, because it was literally that I was using a Kat Von D sample for years, which worked, but it wasn't giving what it needs to give. And so I made several investments into both lip liner and lip gloss and lipstick this year, which I'm really grateful that I made that commitment, because I feel like my lip combo game has been stepped up. My favorites are the MAC lip liner in Stone. I have a little bit of a lighter olive complexion. It's like those taupey, brownish but not too dark lip liners mimic the shade of the shadow on my face. And as well, on top, I love the Edam lip softening balms because they do a really good job of balancing being both like a slutty lip gloss that's kind of sticky and your hair gets stuck in, which I love, and also being very moisturizing. I'm also a texture princess. Sometimes when there's too much going on my face and I can feel it, I'm not a big fan of what's going on. But with the Edam ones, I feel like I really enjoy the feeling of the lip gloss. My favorites are Butter Mochi, which is just their clear. They have a new one that is a holiday themed lip gloss that has a little bit of a sparkle in it that's like butter croissant. I suck at saying croissant in a French accent, so I'm not going to do it. And Boba Bounce, which is like this brown, stunning, beautiful little moment. They also all smell quite lovely, which I really enjoy. Next up on wears, I think that this will be in my favorites every single year. This is a scent that I wear every day. Shockingly, because you can see that I've had this perfume bottle for like over a year, maybe 2 years now, and it's not that used because the scent is very strong, and I usually just need to put one spray in my hair and it's wonderful. This is my favorite scent of all time. I will wear it till the day I die. I just feel like it's just like a very sexy, it feels like a night out. There's like a hint of a cigarette. It's a smoky room. I adore this one. It makes me feel like I was in a band in the 70s or something. And whenever I wear it, I feel just a little bit more confident. And on top of this perfume, which will be in every single one of these, I feel like my scent stack has been very perfected this year, especially since I discovered this deodorant. I'm a girl who doesn't love the smell of most deodorants, and I would buy deodorants and just be like, I guess that's good enough to cover up the smell of my sweat. And this deodorant, I think I've talked about it like 20,000 times on my TikTok because I just love the scent of it so much that it doesn't feel like just a check off the to-do list in the mornings putting on deodorant. It feels like I'm like adding to the layers of scent. This one is in Palo Santo and frankincense. It's by the brand Humble Deodorant Co. This one particularly is quite strong, but I just love the smell of Palo Santo and frankincense, and I feel like it makes me feel like I'm layering an additional scent that's quite lovely on my skin. Okay, next up. This I feel like was the cherry on top of my skincare routine this year. This is La Roche-Posay's Cicaplast. Obviously everybody's skin is different, so take anything I say with a grain of salt, but I used to have really bad breakouts, and people don't believe me, but I will show you here. And because of it, I had to be on so many actives. It wasn't until I blended tretinoin with other active ingredients that I was able to finally get them to quell down. But my skin still had this like minorly dry, no matter how much I put on it, it still felt like it was on the bridge of having a broken barrier. And so someone told me to try out this balm, and my skin finally started to look moisturized and glowy rather than just like it was barely surviving an acne breakout. Okay, and it's also relatively affordable for La Roche-Posay. Like, this isn't like a huge bottle, but it was only $12 for this bottle, and they usually last me a couple of months, which in the grand scheme of skincare isn't that bad. Next up, this is a hair oil I got off of Etsy. It's from the brand Beats Butter and Tea. This has been a repurchase several times. I just love the ritual of oiling my hair. I think it's such a nice self-care moment, especially when my hair is just starting to act up and not cooperate with me. I feel like the act of just putting on like a really herby oil and letting it sit there and washing it out just makes me feel like I'm doing so much for my hair. And then on top of that, it smells so good. It like tingles my scalp a little bit, and it leaves my hair smelling minty and herby the next day most times, which just feels really nice and refreshing and clean. The TLDR with hair oil is that you need to figure out what kind of porosity of hair you have first before purchasing a hair oil. So if you don't have high porosity hair, don't buy this. It will make your hair look oily. If you have high porosity hair, look into oils that work, or low porosity hair, look into oils that work for your hair. But always get some that have herbs in them, just because the herbs are what make your scalp feel so good. All right, we're gonna move on to reading. And I'm probably gonna think of more wares as this video goes on. But for reads, the first book that I don't have on my little shelf is Severance by Ling Ma. This book, I cannot stop thinking about it. I finished it, I think, in June, and it is now December. I forced my mom to take my copy to read it herself. Severance by Ling Ma is a book about a woman who works in the Bible manufacturing section of a book manufacturing company. And it flashes back and forth between the perspectives of after a global pandemic hits. It was written before the COVID pandemic, and her life prior to that until they kind of merge and you figure out how she got to the place that she's in. I just think that Ling Ma has one of the strongest voices I've read in a while. She's so good at capturing what it is like to be alive right now in this kind of capitalist hellscape, and also not make it cringy and not make modern references that are too, I guess, on the nose. I feel like there's sometimes where I will read a modern reference and be like, that's kind of cringy, but she just does such a brilliant job of depicting like the angst and the cognitive dissonance that has to happen to kind of exist as an employee right now. And then also just the depiction of the pandemic, especially considering it was written in an era before COVID-19. She does a brilliant job describing this pandemic. I think the rules of it too are just very interesting, and a pandemic that isn't usually written, where it's essentially a zombie pandemic, but the zombies aren't harmful, they're performing being alive in a weird way. But I cannot recommend her enough. I have not read Bliss Montage yet, and I need to do that. I love her writing so much, and it's one of my favorite books of the year. It's definitely 5-star for me. Okay, next up is this weird little book called Paradise Rot by Jenny Hval. This wrote as a story of this international student who moves to London for school and is looking for housing and moves in with this woman into this old, dilapidated cheap for rent building, and throughout the course of the novel they slowly start to rot together. Trigger warning for piss. If you're easily disgusted by mold and rot and piss, don't read it. Don't touch it. But I thought it was a really interesting, absurdist, queer story that I did enjoy reading, and I read it quite quickly. Last but certainly not least, no one make fun of me, I read part of the Divine Comedy this year. I read it partially because I take a lot of inspiration for my art from ancient story, whether or not it's biblical, religious, mythological, and I feel like there's been so many references made to the Divine Comedy recently in pop culture. Right now I'm specifically thinking off the top of my head Over the Garden Wall, Ptolemea by Ethel Cain, Hozier's recent album, and I feel like it's one of those stories that a lot of people read in high school and is just like an understanding because it's been such an ancient story that's been around for so long. When I say ancient, I do mean Middle Ages, but let me just correct myself. It's such an old story, and so I was like, I feel like I need to just sit down and read this classic, and I did, and I quite enjoyed it. I was like, it's kind of fun that fan fiction is such a prevalent section of literature. Also, forgot this one, but Grey Dog by Elliot Gish, really enjoyed that book. I got really into the library this year, so I don't have a copy of it, but it is the story of a 30-year-old woman in 1901, I believe, who is a school teacher and has to mysteriously leave her last post for a new small town, and she becomes obsessed with what she believes to be a old god in the forest leaving her omens. Great gothic novel, really enjoyed it, and queer undertones. For eating this year, okay, here's the thing. I eat a little bit like a rabbit when I am on a job, because my job is so time intensive. I work in the film industry, which is like 12-hour shifts for the whole week, which I know is normal for medical, but this is just, whenever I'm on a job, I don't exist like a normal person, which means that I make giant bean salads, I guess, and then just eat them for the entirety of the time that I'm on set. And I would recommend it. I think that they're great because you can get all the ingredients in can form, or it's like 2 tomatoes and an onion, and then just like slice it, and then it literally lasts for the entire week. So that's what I've been on. I've also been really into dates just generally this past year with an iced Americano. And as of right now, everything peppermint is appealing to me, but that's because I'm a nostalgic creature and I love peppermint around the holidays. I also love wassail. If you guys have tried wassail, it's fire as fuck. You should try it. As for playing this year, I just got my Spotify Wrapped back, so I can tell you accurately. I listened to so much Ethel Cain this year, it might be a little concerning. I really loved Willoughby Tucker, I Will Love You Forever. I also really loved Perverts. I love drone music, so that just really scratched an itch in my brain. Like, I would go on really long walks by the abandoned oil fracking spot in my hometown and like look at all the rusted buildings and then just like listen to Onanist on repeat. As for other artists, I feel like in the summer I always go back to Zeychels by I forget his first name, but Takanaka is his last name. I was really into Sophie this year. I got into a really big hyperpop phase this summer. Viz was one of my top songs, so was Ponyboy. I just know it's only a matter of time until Ponyboy becomes a trending sound on TikTok, but it's so good. I love Sophie so much. Fun fact, one time I was on an editorial shoot and the magazine didn't credit me by my full name, they just credited me by Sophie. Don't know why, but in my head I was like, I wonder if they're gonna think the stylist assistant on this job was hyperpop icon Sophie. They definitely didn't, but in my mind I was like, as for obsessing this year, Obviously, Miss Spiky Mug has been the object of my affection the entire year. I also feel like I just need to say ceramics in general. Ceramics in general, I am so lucky to have so many wonderful ceramicists in my life. I am terrible with ceramics. I'm an artist. I should be good with them. I'm so bad with them. But I was gifted this beautiful vase that I'm too lazy to go pick up right now that's over there. As well as one of my friends made me all of these shot glasses and also this ceramic turkey leg, which I just really appreciate how many beautiful ceramicists are in my life and have done so many wonderful things for me. Oh, also the candlesticks that are up there, if you can see them, also from a ceramicist in my life. I have had such an obsession with print magazine this year. I feel like I was getting in touch with baby tween Sophie, where me and my dad would go to like Albertsons while my brother was in after school, and literally just read magazines together for an hour. And I feel like I've been really getting back in touch with that, especially since I feel like I work in styling and in costume design, and I feel like I'm constantly inundated with images all the time, whether it be from social media, whether it be from work, whether it be me trying to make mood boards for work. And there's something so lovely about having like a physical document that is not a screen that I can read and take inspiration from, that has been specifically curated for this physical document, or I'm not just like mindlessly scrolling on Pinterest. I feel like it's satisfying for my inner teenager. I've talked about them quite a lot on TikTok, but specifically Violet Papers, Fräulein, ID, Interview, Girl. There's another one that I'm forgetting. Or recommending this year. Don't I have so many recommendations? We start with a rant. I think we should start with a rant. Okay, basically, the whole purpose of me even considering starting a YouTube channel was because I was filming a monthly favorites and I went on such a long rant about when Marnie was there that I had to cut it out of the video because it went over the 10-minute mark. Basically, how it all came to be. Essentially, me and my best friend were sitting down having our usual Studio Ghibli movie of the month moment where we make chai or we have wine and we watch a Ghibli film. And the thing is that my best friend hasn't seen all of them, so usually we watch one that I've seen and she hasn't. And I had thought that I had seen all of them. And then we were on HBO Max and we were looking at them and I realized I have never heard of when Marnie was there at all. And I know it was when Hayao Miyazaki wasn't the head of Studio Ghibli, but I was like, what's this? We should watch it. Okay. Little preface. When Marnie was there, beautiful, obviously it's Studio Ghibli, and I think it does a really great job of depicting what it is to be like an insufferable, depressed preteen, because like I was also a deeply unlikable preteen. I think that that's part of being mentally ill when you're 11. The film essentially is the story of this girl who moves to a beautiful town in the countryside and has everything that she could ask for. She has a loving family. It's like that meme from Meet the Robinsons where he's like, everyone hated me, and she's like being treated so kindly by everyone. She calls someone like she directly insults someone at some point in the film. And this all to say that she's being so insufferable, and then she starts having dreams and seeing this woman who lives in this abandoned manor across the lake, and then she starts hanging out with this woman. This woman is named Marnie. I'm referring to her as a woman, but she is a girl. Then what can only be described as like a queer preteen love story, where like the way that Marnie is animated is that her hair is like blossoming in the wind, and like the lead character, who I'm forgetting the name of right now, she gets jealous of her boy romantic interest, Marnie's boy romantic interest. They keep talking about having their little secret. It's like this whole thing. And then at the end of the movie, when you're like, oh, they're gonna kiss, this is gonna be like a love story, you find out that Marnie is her grandmother, who is dead and like now appearing to her as like a girl ghost. So it's like kind of has an incestuous undertone. That also say, the entire movie I was hysterically laughing, even though like I think it is in part like beautifully animated and, you know, an accurate depiction of being a depressed preteen. I was like, I can't believe they queer baited me with these 11-year-olds. And I had to rant about that. For my favorite movies of the year, I really need to make like an official list, the ones that are coming to mind at this moment in time. I loved the 2020 version of Emma. I watched that this year. I watched it like a couple weeks ago. It was really brilliant. Donkey Skin. It's like a 60s fairy tale. I love costuming, so anything that is beautiful to the eye, I will probably like it, even if the plot is a little bit questionable, but I love Donkey Skin. Okay, not all of these are from this year necessarily, but I'm just gonna go down a list. Okay, Party Girl, perfect for if you're 23. I feel like it's such a perfect 23-year-old movie. The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover. Yep. I also really love Daisies, but I feel like I've loved Daisies since I was 18. I just recommend it to everybody because I love absurdist film. Self-promo, but Hal and Harper, I worked on it. I think it's quite lovely. It's not lovely, it's sad. But, you know, that's a rec from my personal Syrian closet. I rewatch Over the Garden Wall every year. I think that that's a perfect TV show for fall. Interview with a Vampire, I think that show does such a good job of being both comedic and a melodrama. Also, I like all of the recent changes they made to the show itself. Then as for podcasts, I really got into In the Dark. It's a podcast that is now through the New Yorker, and it is like investigative journalism into how the cops and the government fuck up cases, and how injustices are committed by the US government and also sometimes the UK government. I listened to all of that in like 3 months, and there's 6 seasons. It's so good. I don't like true crime because I think it can be a little bit exploitative, but In the Dark is so good and does such a good job of really getting into the nitty-gritty of what went wrong in certain cases. The other podcast I really got into on the other side of things was Fashion Neurosis with Bella Freud. I just love getting into the brains of fashion icons and fashion creatives. I particularly love the episodes with creative directors or fashion photographers. I just find them so interesting and such good juice to get into. And treating for the year. Kat, what didn't we treat ourselves with this year? I guess for treating this year, I made the choice to move to Paris this upcoming year, and so all of the choices that I have been making this year are catered towards the move that I am making next year. I've been locked into working on my portfolio, which has been a whole ordeal, and also why I occasionally move locations in my TikTok. It's because I was living at home for a month to save money and just focus on working on my portfolio. I feel like also for treating this year has been just me forcing myself into new situations. On a kind of more deep note, I've been forcing myself to be uncomfortable because I know that that's when I get the most bang for my buck in terms of life. And I'm so grateful to all of you who have been so supportive of me on TikTok, and also for all of the opportunities I've been afforded through work and through my job in film and in fashion. And yeah, so thank you all for tuning in to this little yearly in review. Also, as a side note, I was wondering if anyone would be interested in vlogs because I was getting the itch to start filming them, and then I was like, basically had a crazy week a couple weeks ago where I like had my art in a gallery and I was styling Liza Koshy for this whole Amazon music event, and then on top of that it was like 5 of my friends' birthdays that week, so it was just a really crazy eventful week. And then I regretted not vlogging it in hindsight. And so if you were interested in a vlog that will be less interesting than the one that could have been filmed that week, let me know. And on that note,